Whose brain would I want it to be?
Whose brain would you want to have? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Channel 1031, the show where I interview other haunters about upcoming things in the Halloween community, or maybe things that they have upcoming within their own channels and their own communities. I'm your host, GMHaunts, and today, I am very excited for this one. I have a very special guest. He has over 5,000 subscribers here on his YouTube channel. He has an actor and animatronic-filled haunt that he does every single year, and he has a giant animatronic collection featuring a lot of clown animatronics. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest for Channel 1031 today is the Psychotic Circus of Savannah. Welcome to the show.
Round of applause, round of applause. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, so I knew I had to get Psychotic on the show at some point. He's someone I watch all the time. I know a lot of people really, really love him. He has an awesome haunt every year, and I knew I had to get him on, and I wanted to have him on one of the first episodes. So here he is. I got him on the show. I got some questions for him, some about some different companies, some about his own haunt. So without further ado, let's get right into the questions. So I guess we'll get right into it. My first question I have for you is, how long ago and why did you end up deciding to start building your own haunts?
So we started doing our haunt in 2018. I think it was 2018. Yeah, 1920. Yeah, this will be our fourth year. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, you know, I'm old as dirt, and so Beetlejuice was a thing that came out when I was really young, and I remember being scared trick-or-treating, going to this guy's house. He was dressed up as Beetlejuice, and I thought it was the real Beetlejuice. And I was maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6, I don't know, but I was terrified. And then something clicked during our interaction with each other when I realized this is just a grown man dressed up, and he was doing it not only to entertain himself, but to entertain the kids. And that's always stuck with me. And I've fallen in love with everything Walt Disney has done. And, you know, anytime that there's been some kind of creative aspect to entertain kids in a kind of scary-ish way, right? So I built this house in 2018, and I just decided one year, hey, let's decorate for Halloween. And I was originally going to go with a Nightmare Before Christmas vibe because I'm lazy, and I figured I could put it up in October and I don't have to take it down until January because it covers both holidays. And I went to Spirit Halloween with my older daughter and my younger daughter, and about to grab this big Jack Skellington, and my daughter was like, yeah, that's cool, but what about these guys? And she pointed at a creepy towering clown and at Hugs. And I said, well, we could do a circus theme. That'd be cool, right? Like, before that, we did Halloween parties, but I didn't know that there was a scene. I didn't know there was collectors. I just, I kind of fell into that aspect of it. So I said, okay, we'll do that. And so we bought those, and it was probably early October, maybe early September. And then I started looking online for more stuff to buy and stuff to build. And I ended up getting a 4-foot by 4-foot Jack-in-the-Box that an actor could go inside. And then it was like, okay, now I have to have an actor as well as me giving out candy. And then I had to get costumes, and it just snowballed from there, and to the point where we've been on numerous news stations. We've been on nationally syndicated radio shows, over 5,000 subscribers. And it's just, you know, last year during the pandemic, 2020, we still had over 1,000 trick-or-treaters, and those were the ones that just went through our haunted house. And so I knew that at that point, like, you know, that this is way bigger than, you know, just a Nightmare Before Christmas display. Like, I'm actually seeing a dream I've had since I was a kid, like, come to life, and it's pretty amazing to feel that way.
Yeah, and like even people can tell from just watching your walkthrough videos of the haunt and everything. It looks like an experience, and there's people and there's actors and there's animatronics, and it looks like something that has so much going on at one time, and there's lights and there's fog. And again, the actors are such a cool part of it that they're with animatronics, and it really is. You create like an experience with the whole thing, and yeah, you can really even see that just in the video versions, and it comes out really, really cool.
Yeah, there's been some people that are like, oh, why don't you charge people, or why don't you know? That's not what it's about. You know what I mean? I put, especially for 2021, I'm sure that we'll get into the plans of what this year holds, but for 2021, it's ridiculous. We are going to be competing with some commercial haunts this year.
Yeah.
And but that's not what it's about for me. If I ever did something like that, it would probably be to raise money for some kind of local foundation or something. But I literally start like early August, late July, early August on just the building aspect of it. I start planning like November 1st.
That's crazy.
So I'm sure, I appreciate that you see all the detail, because some of the stuff, it works from the year before and we continue it that year, but we change the haunt every single year on the inside. We change the path every single year on the inside. And we always want to have some really big ticket item on the inside as well. And then, after a while, we'll just have these large, big ticket items on the inside that we can just rotate on a regular basis.
Yeah, and like my next question actually kind of just ties into what you were saying about how you start designing in November, and building everything. Like, what is your design process for when you say, I want to create this new room, or you have an idea? Like, what is your design process? Is there drawings that go into it? Or they're just, you're visioning it and then you just make it come to life? Like, what is your process for creating a new scare?
So I get an idea from either going to another haunted house or going to like the Six Flags haunted house stuff. I don't remember. They changed the name last year, but I believe they're bringing it either way. Or online. I look at what animatronics are coming out. I look at what the themes are, and I try to get away from what everybody else is about. So if everybody else, we always do a clown theme, but if everybody is talking about like, oh, this animatronic, or oh, this particular type of scare, I'll keep that in the back of my head for a different year. But I'm going to move in a different direction, because I don't want somebody down the street who's doing a haunted house to have the same props, to have the same setup, to have the same kind of scare. I want to do something different each year. So what I do is I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I visit a lot of haunted houses, and then I literally just draw it up on graph paper of how I want the path to go, and then think about the props I want to put in, and it kind of sucks with the commercial companies like Spirit not releasing stuff until June or July, because that only gives me a few months to incorporate that, if I want to incorporate something like that. But last year, for instance, we had the sewer hallway. At the end was Bloodthirsty Betty. And we didn't know what to theme that hallway as. We knew that we were still going to kind of roll with a Pennywise motif a little bit, but we didn't know what to do it as until maybe September 15th. And then it was like, well, we could do a sewer. I originally wanted to do like an alleyway out, like and have like a big telephone pole and stuff like that, but it was like, we could do a sewer. And then it clicked, like, oh yeah, that goes with the Pennywise theme. So some of the stuff I know months and months and months in advance, and I usually keep 1 or 2 rooms where it's like, let's see what we can come up with. Let's look at what we have and let's come up with a themed idea. And that makes it either hit or miss, right? Like the year before that, we tried to do a Hall of Mirrors, and it was horrible. I hated that part of the haunt. It didn't look good. It was cheaply put together. It was rushed, and stuff like that really kind of bothers me. But I also have to think in the back of my head is that if the trick-or-treater doesn't know what I envision, they're only experiencing what they see. So I might have seen it in my head to be 100 times better, but to them it's an absolute masterpiece, because that's what they're experiencing. You know what I mean? Like, so But it's weird. Most of my stuff is planned before, but we usually keep 1 or 2 things to be spontaneous.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Like, it seems like how you're saying, an idea will come up and then another thing will click into it, and it kind of all grows throughout the season, and that's something that's interesting about how you put together your haunt.
But real quick, it's also crazy because, I'm married, and my wife, a lot of people see her and they know I'm the crazy clown guy, right? Like, I got Pennywise on my shirt right now. This is in my office. She doesn't really put out that vibe. But the last 2 years, our most talked about rooms are ones that she actually came up with. And so that's been neat too, because she'll say, hey, I like this, I want to do this. And then it kind of gets put on me and her to really execute the whole vibe of that. Like last year, she wanted to do our blacklight room, and I didn't see how we were going to do it. She wanted these little enclosed areas where it'd be an animatronic, and an actor to scare people. I didn't see how we were going to do that, and I wasn't really feeling it until she was like, look, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. So I also think it's, collaborating with people who are either your friends or your family, because that was one of probably our best rooms of all time. It was really fun.
Yeah, the blacklight room was awesome. I loved like glow-in-the-dark stuff, and I have Wacky back there who's blacklight, and like, I don't know, it's so cool. The paint and everything, when it's glowing and you're walking through it, it creates like a new effect that not a lot of places have. When you're walking through something that it's actually glowing and it looks like another dimension, and it comes out looking really cool.
Yeah, that's how it was. It was like kind of dark and scary until you get to that part, and then it was bright. And so I think people let down their little guard, right? Because, it's bright in here. And then you have, 2 actors jumping out at you at random. I don't know. It was pretty cool. I like to change textures. I like to change colors. And again, collaborating with your friends and family, anybody who's willing to help you, at least give them a listen. Don't always allow them to like take control, because I'm a control freak about it, but
so this next question, I have sort of an answer from it based off one of your short videos that you put out, but I was like wondering if there was some more to it. And the question is, what do your neighbors think about the haunt? So your last short video that's on the channel about your neighbor moving.
And today, he's moving away. Yeah, I win.
But like, so that was obviously one of them. Like, are there other opinions about what your neighbors think about the haunt and building it and everything?
Yeah, every single neighbor, except for that one neighbor, every single neighbor has talked about how awesome it is, how they love seeing the kids. We live in a neighborhood where it's a very, very large suburb, but in the area that we are, there aren't too many kids that are running around. You don't see the kids riding bikes. You don't see the kids playing basketball, unless it's like my kids or the kids across the street. So when you see, 1,000 people on our street and the rest of the neighborhood's dead, it kind of gives you a sense of pride. And I've noticed that in the years that have been popping up, the neighbors across the street have been putting up more stuff. The neighbors down the way have been putting up more stuff. And it really is like, I think that majority of the neighbors look forward to Halloween. But the neighbors really look forward to it. And we've gotten so many people who have helped, who have built, who have asked if they could donate, whether it be costumes or their time. And so it's really been nice, and it's really a cool way to bring the neighborhood together by, having conversations with our neighbors. But the neighbor that was directly next to me was, in my opinion, I'm sure he has a different opinion, but in my opinion, he was a headache, we'll say. And the very first day I met him, I was out there building the haunted house. I said, hey, how you doing? He just looked at me and I said, I'm building a haunted house. I get a lot of trick-or-treaters, so you might want to double up on your candy, like trying to be all nice with him. And he didn't say a word to me. And then come to find out that Halloween, he was passing out some propaganda that was pushing an agenda that was just not necessary for a lot of kids, specifically kids it wasn't necessary for. And at that point, I knew what was going to happen between this guy and I. And then every year he tried to do something to shut down the haunted house. He's called the police on us, and the police will come through the haunted house with their kids after they get off their shift. And he's called the homeowners association, and the homeowners association has said, hey, no, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for handling this. He's called attorneys saying that we've been conducting business here, but because we don't receive any money, we're not conducting any home-based business. So he tried to do everything that he can to shut down the haunted house. And I'm not gonna stop. If he would have came to me and said, hey man, can you maybe have the line go the other way so they're not in front of my house, or I would have definitely done that. It's just that he didn't come to me like a neighbor, and he treated me like an enemy. And at that point, like, okay, dude, now it's on, right? So luckily, yeah, he moved, and this will be the first year since we started doing the walk-in haunted house that he will not be here, and I'm very excited for that. I hope that the new neighbors like Halloween.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. Well, good for you, I guess, that he's gone. You can have a new person that likes to haunt more Halloween people in the neighborhood, So the next question is, obviously you went out to Transworld recently. What was that whole experience like? And then I know you got to meet Ed of Distortions Unlimited. How is he? I know you posted about him that he was really cool. What was that whole experience of going to Transworld actually like?
So it was the excitement. The 2 or 3 days before, I felt like a kid right before Christmas. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about it. What's going to be there? Am I going to see this? Can I buy this? Can I buy that? And I had known that there were some items I wanted to buy through the Morris costumes situation. And found out that year was the first 2021 was the first Transworld that Morris Costumes did not allow anybody to do what they call a cash and carry. You pay for something right then and you get to take it home. And I was really looking forward to that because majority of the stuff that was there are their prototypes. They look a little bit different than the stuff we see mass released online and through other stores. They're usually more detailed. And I was really excited. I got there a day before to get my passes and have everything ready. I was probably the, let's say, 10th person in line. I looked at the map. I knew exactly where Morris was. I want to go, and I wanted to get prototype Cotton Canvas. And I ran over there, and they said, no, we're not doing that. We're not selling this year. We're keeping these, and if you want to buy directly from us, you need to have a business account with us. Well, luckily I have an LLC, so I was able to sign up with them to become a business account, but still have not been able to get my hands on one of those items. The rest of you realize very, very, very quickly that the rest of Transworld is mostly dedicated to commercial haunts. The animatronics are bigger and way more expensive. The masks way more expensive. Costumes way more expensive. Props are way more expensive. And a lot of it is not dedicated to the home haunter, which is fine with me because we've always incorporated stuff that isn't traditionally a home haunter aspect. But I wish there was more home haunter stuff, especially on the price point. When you're walking by Morris, you see a prop and it's $200, and then you walk to another company and you see a prop that's way more detailed, but essentially the same size, the same theme, and does the same thing. And it's 5 times the amount, 6 times the amount of what you would see at Morris. So, but also you look at it in comparison, and after seeing so much that's dedicated to the professional haunts, when I went back to the Morris Costumes booth later on the very first day, you start to look at that like, wow, there is no comparison in quality. The Morris Costumes stuff starts to look like Sunstar stuff compared to Distortions, for instance. But I was able to meet some people that I've only been able to talk to online or watch from their channel. I met Ed and his wife from Distortions. I met other YouTubers there. a lot of contact information and exchanging between myself and mask makers, because I at some point want to have custom masks that nobody else has, because I want people to really have a different experience when they come to my haunt. But and then another thing is we were able to talk to people who run commercial haunted houses and ask them, hey, how can I convert my home haunt into a commercial haunt someday? Something where it's not in my house because I live at my haunt, right? Something where I can have a business or a different location. And I was pretty much told, look, for the first 2 or 3 years, you are not going to make a profit. Bottom line. You need to understand that part. Don't try to make a profit. You're not going to make a profit. So you need to make sure you're financially stable enough to get to the 4th or the 5th year. And then after that, word of mouth works. People start making you their tradition, and it will grow from there. So started working on a business plan for something like that. You know, I do have a 1, 3, and 5 year goal of hopefully owning a commercial haunt someday. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. It was incredible. It was, I don't think that it's something I would need to go to every year. I didn't stay the full 4 days. I originally planned to. I booked a hotel to be there the full 4 days. But realistically, after about 2 days, you've seen everything. You've talked to everybody. You've done a lot. And so at that point, it was like, well, I can stay here to continue to film. I've already got all this footage. Or I can head home a little early and save some money on the hotels, because I overspent when I was at Transworld. So, you know, that part is a little bit different. They have seminars as well, classes you can take, stuff. I didn't participate in any of those, even though I originally planned to. But, it was an incredible experience. But like I said, I don't know if that's something I would need to go to every year, except for video production purposes.
So the last question for you, then we'll be able to wrap this up. Is something that I wanted to ask, and obviously I asked you before this if you actually wanted to talk about this and if you were okay with talking about it, and you said that you were. So obviously a lot of people know this. Back in January, and you sort of touched on this before, there was a situation where you shared some Morris Costumes animatronics slightly early to their official releases. That was a big talking thing in the community. It was a big thing. So I guess the question is, like, what kind of happened after those videos went out, and after you hit publish, what were the things that started happening, and was there anything interesting that happened after those videos?
So there was definitely a lot of stuff that was interesting that happened after, and I think that I kind of need to talk about what happened before I published it, just to kind of give people an understanding of what happened. There was a convention called HauntCon, and normally it would be like how Transworld is, and you would go in person and you see people's booths and all of this. And but this year they did it digitally due to COVID. And a lot of people thought that it was going to be on YouTube. And so I saw a lot of people in my Discord talking about how they're waiting on YouTube for this, and that there's nothing on YouTube. This isn't really happening, or, you know, it was canceled due to this. A lot of people were speculating stuff. And I just read the website, and it said you have to register to attend. So I registered. It asked who I was. I said who I was. It asked what I did. I said I do a YouTube channel and I do a home haunt. And then you were in this like platform online where you can see all of these companies that were doing one-on-one meetings to try to sell their product or to answer their questions, or it was kind of neat. It was like an online meeting place where you would do like a Zoom type of meeting, I guess how we're doing. And so I met with a lot of people, and one of the people that I met with was an unnamed gentleman from Morris Costumes. And he asked who I was, and I told him. I was very upfront about that. He asked if I had a commercial license, and at that time I did not have any kind of business license, and I told him I did not. He asked about my home haunt, and I told him the numbers that I got. He was like, oh, okay, how many subscribers do you have? And I told him that, and he was like, you might as well become a reseller for Morris Costumes. So we discussed that, and then he said, I have a lot of product that's rolling out if you'd like to see it. Like, of course, right? So he shows me everything. He never once asked, please don't disclose this. He never once said, hey man, can you keep this between you and I? Because if you would, just like I said about the neighbor, if you would have asked me that, or if you would have mentioned that to me, I would have obliged by that. Like, I'm not a horrible human being, right? I'm not going to try to do something that makes somebody feel uncomfortable. So, but he didn't say anything like that. So the whole call gets recorded. I'm able to download it. I'm able to get stills of everything. I'm able to get our whole talking conversation. And I talked to some people on my Discord, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did you guys see this? Or you see that? And they're all like, what are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about. Then I realized, okay, I have something that nobody else in the community has. Now I have two different options. Keep it for myself, and then anytime I bring it up or talk to somebody about it, they think I'm bullshitting, right? Like, oh, he thinks he has this and he does. Or like, you know, this is what we are all here on YouTube every day for, in December, in January, in March, like in months that have nothing to do with Halloween. People in our community are on YouTube looking at Halloween stuff still. So maybe I can give that back to them and say, hey, check this out. Let's have a discussion about this. So I released the videos and it blows up. My phone is just bing, 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 constantly on the subscribers and the comments and the views and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is crazy. I'm still not thinking that there's anything that's going to ruffle feathers. And then I get a message from the head of HauntCon, an email or a phone call. Hey, just so you know, Scott Morris of Morris Costumes is extremely pissed off. We checked out your video. He appreciates that you're excited, but he's asking that you take the video down. Well, at that point, the video had blown up so much that other people, I believe even GMHaunts channel, did videos on my video, you know, reactions and stuff. And so if I took mine down, it doesn't matter because it's already on another 45 YouTube channels. And so, you know, I apologized, but said me taking my video down isn't going to do anything good. And then I said, but, you know, they have my contact information because I had signed up to be a retailer. So have them call me and maybe we can work something out. So I get an email from Scott Morris directly. And he's pretty much like, hey, man, if you take your video down, I'll give you a sneak peek in March. This is in like the beginning of January. So I'm like, okay. Again, call me because you're sending an email to an email address I really don't check. You know my phone number. Let's work this out in detail. Maybe I can take it down. Maybe I can convince some other people to take it down. And, you know, maybe I can convince them by saying, if you take it down, I'll be able to show this at this point or something. And he didn't call me. He didn't even respond to the emails. And I took that as a little strange. You guys were willing to sit on the phone with me for over an hour when you were trying to sell me something. But when you were trying to get me to do you a favor, you weren't willing to pick up the phone. It just felt really, really, really strange. Then at that point, I started getting weird messages. Like I got some messages on Facebook from a young woman who was saying how she's friends with the Morris family and how, you know, pretty much I don't want to cross them. I took it as a threat type situation. I got a lot of strange comments on YouTube mixed in with all my great comments. And of course, it could just be weird people commenting, but just some stuff where it was like, oh, wow, I think that I've really pissed somebody off here. And so Scott and I have exchanged emails a few times after that. And I hope he understands I meant no disrespect by my video. And again, I'm not saying that any of those weird messages, or even the person who said you don't want to mess with the Morris family, I'm not saying that he had anything to do with that. But you know, it was definitely interesting doing a leak and seeing how there's certain people in the community, whether it affected them or not, that almost got offended by it. And then there were a lot of people that were like, wow, this is amazing. And there was some excitement
Mm-hmm.
again. And, you know, realistically, with all the stuff that Spirit's coming out with right now, I don't feel excited right now. We haven't really seen anything
Mm-hmm.
yet, right? You know, we've seen the little blueprint drawings. We've seen the clock, but there hasn't been anything to like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
like,
feel the
yeah.
magic right now.
Well, like, something
But
interesting about the leaks that, like, you were talking about on how there were multiple videos, and, like, you taking it down wouldn't have really done anything. I work closely with a couple of buddies of mine who are fellow haunters, and I usually talk to them when there is something, like a leak that comes out, and we normally discuss whether it's a good idea for us to then do a video reacting to it. Now, in that situation with the Morris stuff, you had done it, and we were discussing sort of, are we going to be able to do a video taking the screenshots and reacting to it? Obviously, we ended up deciding it would be fine because there were so many of shares of your stuff coming out, and it was a thing where, like, the fire was already lit, and it was going to keep going. So if it's going to keep going, we're fine to do a video. I know for certain Spirit stuff that's coming out right now that is not supposed to be out, we've discussed that we're not going to be, I'm not sharing any of that stuff this year. But yeah, with the Morris situation, it was a thing where there were so many shares and so many videos that it really was a thing. And like, this is not a surprise anymore. So you might as well do a video on it because it's not really ruining it for anyone because it's already out. And that's sort of the situation that kind of happened with it after you shared all those videos.
Yeah, with me, it's, I don't, you know, I come from, on my personal side, not my professional, well, I guess you could say professional too, but I come from an industry where leaks are, you know, they're obviously, it can mess up how somebody rolls something out, but also can be a very, very positive thing because it brings a lot of attention to something in a almost like a guerrilla marketing type of way. I'm all for leaks. The way I look at it is it's not the responsibility of the person who obtains the leaking information. It's the responsibility of the company to make sure their stuff doesn't leak out. And if you have a fan base that is that excited to see what you're working on, I think that more companies should embrace or even, you know, work with channels like mine, work with channels like yours to leak certain things out periodically. It causes a lot of attention to go towards that company in a small period of time. You know, think about January. Excuse me. Think about January. There was a whole section, a whole month or two that was strictly captured by Morris Costumes. Not anybody else. There was no discussion of Spirit. There was no discussion of what Home Depot was doing. There was a whole month and a half or 2 months that was strictly everybody was talking about Morris. And, you know, I think that more companies should really embrace the thoughts of leaks. And even channels like ours, again, it's, you know, I look at it almost as a duty to my subscribers. If I get some information regarding a leak and I can verify that it's accurate, because there's been a lot of people in the past who've tried to give me fake leaks, I guess, to just like get it online or whatever. But I think that it's almost our duty to report on what the discussions are in this community. And, you know, leaks being a huge part of that when it gets to around this time of year, January to June, that first 6 months is mostly leak and prediction conversation. And then after stuff rolls out, it's reviews and showcases and unboxings. And then from November to December is people looking at other people's Halloween videos. December, it's pretty much dead. So it's like, let's all be a little realistic on what we all look at, what we all talk about in those months. And if we have something to fill in those months to confirm what our predictions are, let's do that, you know? So if anybody out there does have some leak information, you can always contact me at savannahpsychocircus@gmail.com.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I definitely agree. I think it is a good day. Like, it's sort of the any publicity is good publicity thing, because, and I think Spirit was sort of starting to, and obviously we don't know what they're going to do for the rest of the season, but I think now they're trying to tap into the let's reveal more ourselves so that somebody doesn't. And I think what my theory behind the whole clock coming out and everything is that the date it's supposed to come out is July 15th, which is around the day when it normally gets leaked by someone taking the photo. So they're finally thinking, why don't we just reveal it ourselves instead of letting someone who works at a store leak it, like, by them, and it's not an official reveal. And I think that's something that a lot of other companies should be looking at, and I think it's a good sign to see that Spirit is starting to look in that direction and think of that as a marketing strategy and a way to create excitement for their upcoming season.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and also realistically, think about how Spirit did something this year that they've never done before. They sent out these mystery boxes to certain people. Essentially doing a leak. They're learning to hint to a huge community that maybe in the years past they didn't really realize that they had. So they're doing stuff like that. They're doing the blueprint pieces where they're showing 2 animatronics, not in detail, but drawings and names. They're causing everybody to get excited right now. It's a different tactic than Spirit has ever used, and at least in my opinion. And I think that it's working really well for them because everybody right now is watching this clock until July 15th. There's a talk going on instead of people wondering, oh, I wonder how they're going to release their stuff on YouTube. It's really gotten where people are on their website. People are harassing the poor girls that work on their Spirit chat room, whatever. It's really, really, really interesting to see. And I think for the first time, us as haunters, us as content creators, are feeling almost like an appreciation that Spirit understands there's a huge, huge community of people who collect the stuff that we sell. And it feels good, man. I think that 2021 is going to be really exciting to see what they roll out. And I'm surprised that they actually have a clown with this, is his name Henry Hustle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, because when I saw all the more stuff and saw there wasn't really any clowns, okay, I figured that clowns kind of ran their course. So I'm glad to see that they're still going to drop, even if it's 1 clown a year, I'm cool with that. It's better for my wallet anyway.
So your bloody bonus for the Psychotic Circus of Savannah is if Dr. Frankenstein dug up your body and put in somebody else's brain into your body, who would you want it to be?
Whose brain would I want it to be?
Whose brain would you want to have?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a very interesting... Well, I mean, I would probably... if he was able to put in, like, half of a Walt Disney brain and, like, let's say half of a Steve Jobs brain, right? Like, I need somebody who's creative but can also be successful. And give me, Walt Disney was very, very, very creative on his storytelling. Steve Jobs, very, very creative when it came to at least directing people to design something. Give me a piece of both and I'm good. I don't know if they'd want to be in my body, though. Both those guys are relatively fit.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's who the Psychotic Circus would want if Dr. Frankenstein dug up his body here on Channel 1031. You're probably not going to hear that anywhere else, but on Channel 1031, you definitely are. This was so much fun to get to talk to Psychotic Circus of Savannah here on Channel 1031. I really appreciate everybody out there who is watching this video afterward. It was so much fun to do this, and again, I'm going to have a lot more episodes, a lot more guests. And if you're interested to be interviewed, let me know in the comments. You want to be interviewed, you can email me, you can direct message me on Instagram. Let me know if you want to be interviewed, and I'm going to be writing out to a whole bunch of different people. And I can't wait to continue Channel 1031. So thank you so much for watching.